Hi, I'm John McDonald with RSA, the Security Division of EMC, and I'm here today to talk to you about how to use an ISO 27002 framework to address today's types of security issues. What do we mean by today's types of security issues? Well, consider, for example, data breaches. You frequently hear about major data breaches, and they're frequently occurring in organizations such as banks, financial institutes, insurance companies that you know are spending a lot of money on IT security. But the reality is the breaches are occurring, so they aren't solving the problems. And let's face it, the problems aren't going to get any easier. The rate of growth of information in most organizations, particularly sensitive information, is extremely fast. The level of complexity of your infrastructure is growing dramatically. The level of complexity of the types of security threats you face is constantly increasing. You're being attacked by more and more sophisticated hackers out there. And most importantly, the government and industry regulatory environment isn't going to get any simpler anytime soon. So all these factors are combining to force you to look at a new way of approaching IT security. So what is a framework? We mentioned ISO 27002 frameworks. Consider how we build a house. Traditionally, if we built a house the way we did security, we would end up implementing separate projects for each room. We'd have a bathroom over here, we'd have maybe the living room over here, we'd have a couple of bedrooms here, spread out throughout the land. That's obviously not efficient. You've got separate walls, separate plumbing, everything else. A framework-based approach says, let's take and build a common framework, or understand a way to build a framework, which would be the frame of the house, and then let's build the different rooms that we need inside the house. Now, just like a house, everyone's IT infrastructure is going to be different because every organization has different requirements. But the benefit is it gives you a single consolidated place to hang your IT security on. So real quick introduction to ISO. Who is ISO? ISO stands for the International Organization for Standardization. They're based in Geneva, Switzerland, and they're responsible for producing over 17,000 internationally recognized standards that cover a very, very wide range of technologies, materials, and numerous other areas, safety, for example. The most common one most people know about is ISO 9000. We've all driven down the streets and seen the large banners hanging on the sides of buildings that say this organization's ISO 9000 certified, which indicates they follow a minimum set of standard processes to ensure quality in their products. That's what ISO brings to the table. Several years ago, ISO realized that IT security is one area that could significantly benefit from having some standardization, internationally recognized standardization. So they developed a series of standards called the ISO 27000 series. 27000 series consists of 14 different standards covering a wide range of topics from IT security. The core standards are 27001, which provides what's called an information security management system and focuses on the process for IT security, and 27002, which provides a framework of controls necessary to implement an information security management system. That's what we're going to focus on. Incidentally, 27002 started its life as British Standard 7799, was adopted by ISO back in 1999 and renumbered to 27799 at the time. And then in August of 2007, it was finally renumbered to 27002. So many of you may have heard of ISO 17799. It became ISO 27002. So what are the benefits of taking this type of approach? Well, as I said, consider how we traditionally implement IT security solutions. We've got different regulatory requirements like PCI, like HIPAA, like the European Union Data Privacy Directives, all forcing us in our organization to implement various projects to address different types of information. So we end up with siloed type implementations based on different requirements. What that means is we may implement one monitoring solution here, a different monitoring solution here, some monitoring here, maybe none here, access control here, something here, a piece over here, another piece over here. The problem with this approach is, according to organizations like Gartner, implementing project-based point solutions for different regulatory compliance purposes can significantly increase your overall spending on security controls to the degree of 150% more spending for organizations that take this approach. What a framework approach gives you is the ability to take these different controls and implement broad-based controls that cover a wide range of areas in the infrastructure with a single control set. So the result is that you significantly decrease the number of controls in the infrastructure. Once again, according to industry analysts like Gartner, organizations that take a framework-based approach can reduce the total number of controls in their infrastructure by 30 to 70%. So it results in significant cost savings in the environment. Now, what does ISO 27002 cover? It's got 11 different what are referred to as clauses. Each clause has multiple categories underneath it, and each category implements multiple control objectives. It covers everything from risk, asset management, access control technologies, business continuance technologies, all the way down to compliance type technologies. So it defines a complete list of controls organizations can use to implement these types of frameworks. What are some of the other advantages this brings to the table? Well, we talked about the fact that it can significantly reduce the total cost of security in your infrastructure. Second advantage, as we mentioned earlier, the regulatory environment. Every organization out there is probably subject to anywhere from 3 to maybe 30 different industry, government, internal regulatory requirements. That's not going to get any simpler. With the framework type approach, when a new regulation comes along or an existing regulation changes, you've already got the pieces of the framework in place, so you utilize that existing control to implement and support that new requirement. You're not implementing a new project or a new point solution for each type of requirement. Another significant advantage is the overall level of security. With the point solutions we talked about earlier being implemented in different locations throughout the infrastructure, you end up with large gaps between the components in the environment. It may be different divisions handle security differently, but what's in between them isn't that well protected. These are the sorts of areas that attackers generally go after. They're not going to make their initial attack into your highly secure areas. They're going to try to get into your less secure areas and use that as a backdoor into the rest of your infrastructure. By having this framework-based approach, you've got a holistic ability to monitor and control your environment across the entire infrastructure consistently. It's another another advantage to implementing an ISO 27002 framework is it's internationally recognized. If your organization does any kind of business outside the United States, having this sort of framework in place can prove to your stockholders, to your customers, to your partners that you care about security and you've implemented a solution that's recognized all over the world. I mentioned ISO 27001 earlier. That's the Information Security Management System. 27002 is the set of controls that supports that. By implementing this sort of framework, you've taken a major step towards ISO 27001 certification. That certification, like ISO 9000, proves to the world, once again, customers, partners, and shareholders, that you're serious about security. So I hope you understand a little bit better about some of the advantages of implementing an ISO 27002 type framework.